this wonderful organization of mobility worldwide, and welcome to this episode of Dr. Cordate's musical comedy science review, the Prime of Senility Tour. You know, I don't mind so much growing old, but as a songwriter, it's a little sobering to think that when Mozart was my age, he'd already been dead for more than 30 years. So here we are in the Talking Horse Theater, managed by Mr. Ed Hansen. I guess you have to have been a child of the 60s in order to understand the joke there. This evening's show is a benefit and awareness raiser for the Mobility Worldwide Project, formerly known as the PET Project for Personal Energy Transportation. And hopefully you saw the cart that was in the lobby and picked up some information, perhaps sign the list for the newsletter or to volunteer. Last year I had the opportunity to travel to the town of Migori in western Kenya to distribute 154 mobility carts, and next month my wife and I will be leading a team to return to Kenya and distribute more carts. And tonight's fundraiser, part of the money tonight, will go toward team expenses on that trip, like tipping drivers and so on. Now, let's see, let me get my note cards out so that I make sure I thank everybody that should be thanked. Okay, well, thanks, everybody. There are some special people in the audience tonight. If you're a volunteer at the Mobility Worldwide Project, put your hand up or stand up. Yeah, okay. These are the people that are involved in making the carts and packing them for distribution. And also want to point out my lovely wife, Barbara, who engineers a lot of the stuff for this show. Oh, more volunteers from Mobility Worldwide. And is it okay if I mention that you all met at the Mobility Worldwide shop and then got married? Okay, so if you should happen to volunteer there, be careful.
May be hazardous to your health.
Yeah. And our friends Warren and Sandy drove over here from Lee's Summit. We've been on 3 mission trips to Cuba with them. And there are some, besides the people that will be performing tonight. Oh, well, I guess there's other people performing. Anyway, so there's some wonderful musicians in the audience. And does anybody else want to be recognized? Oh, I should point out, Pam Forbes here on the front row making a video. If you happen to be sitting in front of her, the back of your heads might have shown up on a YouTube video in a few weeks. But in the past, everybody seems to have taken a seat behind her. Mm-hmm. Probably because she's sitting on the front row. Okay. Well, once again, since it's the Prime of Senility Tour, eyesight is an issue. Okay, enough of this idle chit-chat. We did ask you to pay good money to get in here, and so we feel obligated to provide a dollar or two worth of entertainment. And in that light, we've assembled a small army of local songwriters, and they will be appearing in roughly alphabetical order. It's just easy for old people to remember, you know. My name starts with V, I must go first. Oh, by the way, that was Charles ask you on the piano, and since his name started with A, he was first. Okay, so we have Walter Bargan, who was Missouri's first, and until the second one was appointed, only poet laureate. Naked Dave Bandy, although we did ask him to put clothes on for tonight. We have the tall man, Sam D'Agostino, and the bald man, T.C. Eliot. William Haight, who drove in from the far west of Missouri, Pleasant Hill, somewhere around in there. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, and let's see, the bearded man, Tom Latta, and the piano man, Tony Lotvin, and the ponytail man, Dennis Lane Schubert, and the last man, Grant Withers, and maybe some other surprise guests somewhere along the line. And I am Dr. Cordate, and I'm the science education part of tonight's symposium. And we'll get that long, boring educational stuff out of the way first. So if you need to have a coughing fit, go to the bathroom, check your cell phone. Now would be the time to do it. I apologize to those of you who thought you were out of school for the weekend or perhaps for the rest of your lives, but we're going to have a little pop quiz here, and the first question on the quiz is, what causes birds to migrate south in the fall? Okay, just like real students, nobody wants to answer the question. I just shout it out. I'm an old guy. You have to speak up. What causes birds to migrate south in the fall?
Cold.
Headaches.
Headaches?
Cold weather.
Yeah, cold weather. Okay.
Winter.
Right. Or decreasing photo period. Yeah. Okay, so second question. What causes birds to migrate north in the spring?
Sex.
Man, we're going to be here a long time. This is a slow.
Turn on your hearing aids.
Why, is somebody shouting out the answer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What was
We all did.
the opposite?
Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is what all the textbooks say, and an article in the last issue of the National Geographic implied the same thing, that birds stimulated to migrate by decreasing photo period in the north, and in the spring they're stimulated to go in the opposite direction. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I thought this too for a long time, so I started working on a song about bird migration. And, most birds actually migrate to the tropics, around the equator, even further south to the southern hemisphere. And so in the spring, they can't know that the photo period is increasing in the northern hemisphere. Unless they get a message from one of their cousins left behind, like a tweet, as it were. And because when they're somewhere around the equator, of course, the photo period doesn't change, and when they're in the southern hemisphere, when the photo period changes in the spring, it changes back in the direction of decreasing photo period, and they can't. Well, they just don't. No, anyway, so when I was, because I was in the creative mode, and rather than, I'm just an empty vessel, fill me up with whatever specific knowledge I need for the next test mode, like most students are, I just got to thinking a little more critically about migration. Oh. Ah. Okay. Look out.
Sorry, Mike.
It's early in September near Edmonton, Alberta. I feel a chill down in my hollow bones. The South suddenly has attraction 'cause of the interaction between prolactin and corticosterone. There's serious changes in the weather. Gotta check my long pointy wings and feathers. Getting ready for a 3,000-mile migration. Got to fatten up some more. Put some energy in store. I think it's time for a tropical vacation. Oh, mighty north wind, so cold and strong. It's time to tell this summer place so long. The days are getting shorter, the nights are getting colder. There's changes going on inside of me. It's time to migrate, so I'm putting on some weight. This fat's gotta last till I get across the sea. Oh, mighty north wind up in the sky. Will I have the need to get on your back and fly? It's the middle of April on the coast of Venezuela. There's signs from my pituitary gland, and I feel some memory stirred, so I'll get my plump little woman bird, and we'll strike out fast for some prairies of the northern land. What's gonna guide us on our way? I know that's hard for me to say, but we'll check magnetic field, sun, moon, and stars. And as we fly along, we'll stop sometimes and sing our song while we look for the Mississippi River and other landmarks. Oh, gentle south breeze, so warm and soft. Something's telling me to be aloft. I'm getting restless urges from some hormonal surges. I hear it's getting warmer way up north. It's been really nice in this tropic paradise, but I can't ignore the call of nature's course. Oh, gentle south breeze up in the sky. Will I have the need to get on your back and fly? Oh, mighty north wind, oh, gentle south breeze, up in the sky, up in the sky. Will I have the need to get on your back and fly? Thank you. And by the way, the Martin Company, Fender, Epiphone, Gibson, they've all asked me to make sure that you know I am playing a Yamaha guitar tonight. Okay, and now, if we were truly going in alphabetical order, it would be Naked Dave Bandy, but we'll let Walter Bargan do his poetry reading. Walter has about 20 volumes of poetry, so it may take a while.
As you would probably expect from Jeff, that the directions here are pretty limited. What he told me was, be funny and don't take over 10 minutes. So I'm setting my stopwatch. So just a minute, please.
I have the alarm here.
Oh, you have the alarm. So I don't need to do that. Always puzzled about what's funny and what's not funny, and I decided that I would read my alien invasion poems, which is only 2, And not exactly an alien invasion, but maybe just a hint of it, depending on what you think. The first poem was called Utterly Gone, and it's a play on the word utter, cow udder. So this is utterly gone. The interesting thing about this poem is that it's set in Lincoln County, in Hurricane Township, in a small town that I don't think is incorporated. It may, until recently, called Okita, or maybe Okita, I'm not sure. It's O-K-E-T-E. Now, we know Lincoln, okay, Abraham Lincoln, but why hurricane? You know, this county is just like 60 miles northwest of St. Louis. But the name of the town is what's most interesting because it means the mice. And the word is actually from the Yoruba language, which is spoken in southwestern Africa. So there's a lot of possibilities there in terms of some interesting history to discover. In midsummer on Forrest Gladney's farm near Okita, Missouri, oaks are dense. The small pasture is barely visible through an occasional break in the leaves. Who would hike back this far over the rocky slopes, snakes, and poison ivy of these hills and leave with the right eye, the right ear, and the tongue utter gone? The sexual organs defiled. Is this what they think? The cuts through the hide are surgical. The blood has vanished. An unearthly smell has kept coyotes and vultures away from the carcass. Something is getting closer. The night aches with lights. Did the Angus tongue break the news that there are two of each of us, and the one they take is a stranger to us all? Well, you know, this poem was first published in the South Dakota Review in 1979, which meant that I wrote it in the mid-70s. Well, this poem seems to have developed legs and maybe a little bit of a life of its own because about 25 years later, I received a phone call about that particular poem, which led to a lot of very interesting questions after the phone call was over with. So this poem is called Utterly Again, and I think it's self-explanatory. This is the phone call. A man calls from across the country. He's urgent as cumulus clouds, crowded in a phone booth at Atlantic and Boardwalk. I hear him clearly, speaking out of the grip of my hand, the rain of his syllables flooding my ear. He's calling me about the last two lines to a poem published 20 years ago in a small South Dakota literary magazine. I don't hear thunder or the drumming of a downpour, but he's persistent, urgent, 40 years old, working at an engineering firm that won't promote him until he completes a degree in anything. The poem describes cattle mutilation, the details that turn our heads away even as our eyes move farther down the page. There's the irony of someone, them, traveling light years, hundreds of millions of miles to surgically remove the right ear and eye, the tongue and udder, all the blood and the sexual organs from a grazing Angus, the highest life form in a tick-infested back 40. We talk for half an hour. He says each morning for a week he's repeated those last two lines, and the one they take is a stranger to us all. And the one they take is a stranger to us all. I mumble something about Descartes, consciousness, the mind-body duality of Western culture. I don't think I've helped. He says it's just what he needed to finish his paper. I ask, who is teaching the class and at what college? But he says he was asked not to reveal names. Later, after his generous thanks and promise to have a check in the mail for copies of all my dusty books, the check never arrives. I begin to wonder, to have doubts, who it was I spoke to. And maybe I shouldn't have given my address to a stranger. Isn't this what we warn children not to do? How could anyone have found that obscure issue of an obscure magazine, to have read a short esoteric poem and then assigned it for class discussion. Who was I really talking to? Maybe they think I know something, that these words are a code and a plot. In the room by the phone, it's growing dark. The ceiling begins to rain. Take me to your leader. That's not the end of it. I read those two poems on the Paul Pepper show maybe a month ago or so, and shortly after that I received an email from a woman who lives outside Ashland, Missouri, as I do, who I don't know, by the way, and she said her daughter worked as a sheriff's deputy in Montauk County in the mid-90s and was called to investigate the death of a cow. And she went out there and she was so disturbed by what she saw that she has talked about it ever since. And it was similar to what I described in the poem. Well, that's not all. A little while later, like maybe a couple of days, I received a rather lengthy email from a friend who lives in Helena, Montana. And he wrote something to this effect. In the 1970s, driving eastern Colorado, his father worked for the Soil Conservation Service in a pickup sporting a hydraulic auger in the bed, which was used to extract soil samples. One day he was mapping soil on some public land out in the middle of nowhere, and a rancher came flying down the road, jumped out of his pickup, and drew a gun on his father. This rancher just knew that this stranger was going to use that contraption in the back of the pickup to kill and mutilate his cattle. His father did persuade him to put the gun down, and then convinced him that he was mapping soils and not doing anything deadly or unseemly with his cattle. This guy had lost a number of cattle in the last few months to bizarre surgical mutilations. Anyway, the next week, a full-page photograph in the county paper of his father appeared under the headline, "Don't shoot this man." Well, it's not done yet. These two poems seem to have legs of their own. Paul Pepper put 4 questions to his audience on his Facebook page. And here are the questions that he asked. 1, who was on the phone? 2, where did this person or this teacher find this poem utterly gone in a magazine that was 25 years old and probably had a circulation of 150 people? Why was this person so obsessed with those last 2 lines to the poem? And the one they take is a stranger to us all. But now, the most important, the most overriding question of all: when will the promised check arrive?
That's what the Trump University thing.
Jeff, where are you, Jeff?
You're here.
How much time do I have left?
Well, when did you start? Okay, 1 minute and 22 seconds.
I might run over about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. Now, to clean the mental palate of all this mutilation, here is a poem called Migratory Bird Count, and it is important to note, not that all of you aren't aware of this, just how devastated the avian populations of this country have, they've suffered severe declines. The bobwhite in Missouri, the population has dropped 90%. Whippoorwills, over 80%. And it just goes on and on and on. You know, we're really, what we're seeing here is we're on the edge of mass extinction of avian populations. So I was on the migratory bird count, and this was my experience. This begins with a couple of lovely lines from Gerald Manley Hopkins. And thrush, through the echoing timber, does so rinse and ring the ear. I've gotten up far too early, You know, that's what birders do. Not that I'm a real birder, but I attach myself to them. I've gotten up far too early. Early, beyond the last firefly's flickering luminescence, beyond a horned owl falling into the deep well of its voice, leaving me with its echo outlining silence. In the few surviving whippoorwills, at least the solitary singer outside my window, where once there were dozens caffeinating the night with their stories, has lost its voice, grown tired or despondent attempting to call forth a mate. There the three of us sit on a gravel road, in a bruise of light, in an SUV. Not enough coffee, but enough binoculars of varying quality to go around. We could be any set of famous flunky trios, the Musketeers, the Marx Brothers, the Stooges, or just the Three Monkeys. See no, speak no, hear no, and maybe a ghostly fourth, no. We attempt to identify bird songs without seeing anything in particular, other than a smear, a blur, a twittering slur. From the back seat I say, "What was that?" My companions look at me as if I'm suffering an auditory hallucination. Next time I repeat, "What was that?" I raise an index finger as if I'm pointing their ears at the trilling somewhere in the leaves. The driver, with the bird call app on his smartphone, shrugs his shoulders. There are too many birds to scroll through, and says, "I don't know." The man in the passenger seat, who moments earlier said, "Hearing aids are in my future," says, "I didn't hear anything." And so it goes. Through the morning, me pointing at nothing in particular, my swashbuckling partners hearing nothing in particular, and all of us seeing even less than anything in particular. I should mention that Utterly Again appears in my latest book, which is just about 2 months old now. Too Quick for the Living. Thank you.
Megan Day, where are you?
He's getting
Yeah, okay, well, so as part of the fundraising process for the trip to Kenya, we had a rummage sale last weekend where we tried to sell an old classic upright Hoover vacuum sweeper, and nobody bought it, of course, and I was so aggravated that I was bad. I heaved it over the fence across the road into a wooded area and said, just be done with it. And then the next morning when we got up, there was this terrible racket across the road. There was deer, there was a family of raccoons, there were skunks, groundhogs, and a whole bunch of birds were there, crows and blue jays, and the tastiest of them all, the diminutive tufted titmouse. And they were all just viciously attacking this sweeper, just pouncing on it and kicking it and dive bombing it. And I guess it really is true that nature does abhor a vacuum. They saved me.
Nobody cares?
Okay, we need another story. I bought a new boomerang the other day, but I'm having trouble throwing my old one away.
You're a disgrace to the Aborigine race.
Your shadow is evidence that light, which has traveled 93 million miles, has been deprived of hitting the ground after all that. Your shadow, light.
Right.
Okay, well, my son works for a small tech company in Germany, and he's concerned about artificial intelligence taking over, but you know, robots will always need us to unlock those sacred texts. You know, the ones that say, "I am not a robot."
Oh, right.
I don't get it. Okay, I can make it louder. I'm just trying not to run anybody out of here.
Watch my hands.
All the liquor and women and the lines on the road, late nights and missed bites, stage lights and bar fights. That's living day to day on the road. Sometimes I loved a lady, but I wandered for my own. But a guitar man's just an old night fling. No, they really didn't need me. No, they really didn't need me. And the ladies all say that they love me. They're turning out the lights. They say it once again as they're walking out of my life. So you see, it's just me again. Me and this all beat up guitar, my friend, trying to find our lonesome way back home for a while. Back home for a while. Back home for a while. Home ain't necessarily where you hang your hat. It's where you find a place to rest your soul for a while. Rest your soul for a while. Sometimes I've loved a lady, I wandered for my own. But a guitar man's just an old night fling. You know, they really didn't need me. No, they really didn't need me. And the ladies all say that they love me. And I'm turning out the lights, and they say it once again as they're walking out of my life. So you see, it's just me again. Me and this old beat up guitar, my friend, trying to find our lonesome way back home for a while. Back home for a while. Back home for a while. Back Thank you. I'm happy to be here and supporting this great event. You know, this something that can change people's lives, and I'm proud to be part of it. So thank you all.
Did you introduce yourself?
I beg your pardon?
Did you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dave. Dave, this is Dave. I'm Naked Dave, and you are you, and you are the party to whom I'm speaking. Okay.
His name is David Bandy, right? Dave Bandy, for those who don't know.
All right. Yeah, I am. This is one I wrote about 18 years ago, I think, and in a fit of depression, and I was proud of it because I decided to write a happy song to cheer me up. Special thing, it ain't just about honeymoons and diamond rings. Some folks get lucky, fall in love for life. Others never have a husband or wife. That don't mean there's no love in that life. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. I got an old bulldog, I love it on my heart. Old pair of shoes and this old car. A bunch of old wreck, this old guitar. Bunch of good friends with a little heart. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. You gotta love what you got. 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 You gotta love what you gotta love your life. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. For that perfect love, that woman that fit me just like a glove. And I've loved a lot of ladies since the tears have been spilled. I've done my share of crying, got my share of guilt. Had little walls, but I love them still, no matter what happens. No, always will. I got an old bulldog, I love on my heart. Old pair of shoes and this old car. A bunch of old records, this old guitar. Bunch of good friends with a little heart. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. You gotta love what you got. 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 You gotta love what you gotta love your life. You gotta love what you gotta love your life. Got time for one more. This is one of my newer ones. And it's kind of my response to the evening news and it's just nothing much I can do about it. But anyway, kind of puts this thing over my psyche sometimes. But this is. Go outside, I breathe real deep, eyes open wide. I look around and realize the beauty and the wonder of this place. lucky to call home. The beauty of this place, then I'm lucky to call home. But I got enough people in other places. They got it rough, but not me. Not me. I got food to eat, I got air to breathe, I got water to drink, and a place to be me. That's me. So all in all, things are about as good as they can be. So all in all, about as good as they can be. Walk around, not to worry about mines buried in the ground, not me. I can take off walking almost anywhere, don't have to worry about nobody, nobody but not me. And I got nobody, I got nobody, I got nobody, nobody shooting at me, not yet. And I got nobody, and I got nobody, I got nobody, nobody shooting at me. So all in all, things are about as good as they can be. So all in all, things are about as good as they can be. So all in all, things are about as good as they can be. Thank you all.
No, I want to just,
Tell another joke, introduce another
I
stuff.
want to just sit over there and listen. Okay. Yeah, this is already told. Okay, so a termite walks into a bar and says, "Is the bartender here?"
Okay.
Are you ready?
Oh,
Sure.
Okay.
okay.
Gonna ruin it for everybody.
It's always fun when somebody walks up afterwards and looks up at the microphone. Like, what?
Sometimes I feel like I want to just sue the world in general for all the times I hit my head on doorways. Not really.
What's your real name?
Sam DiAgostino.
Okay.
Zum. This is a tune about making your life a work of art. It's called Mona Lisa Smiles Again. They asked me to play for you, I will. They ask me to cry for you, I will. Sweet harmony will be just 2 steps away. Your heart will sing by the words I say, and Mona Lisa will smile again. They ask me to dance with you, I will. They ask me to hold your hand, I will. I will lead you when it's right. Our heads will spin as our feet take flight, and we will bow on to the night. And Mona Lisa will smile again. And Mona Lisa will smile again. Cantaré al amor que permanece en ti. Clamaré al amor para que mirares a mí. And Mona Lisa will smile again. And Mona Lisa will smile again. They ask me to fall for you, I will. They ask me to wait for you, I will. I will meet you at the door. Your feet will never touch the floor. You'll learn the meaning of a door. And Mona Lisa will smile again. And Mona Lisa will smile again. Cantaré al amor que permanece en ti. Clamaré al amor para que mirares a mí. And Mona Lisa will smile again. And Mona Lisa will smile again.
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's see. This is a tune about change. It's called, what's it called? The Crash Bears True. The crash being change. A river runs through, and I'm in the waterfall. The crash bears true, and I'm riding a wave 10 feet tall, and the ocean wide is full of sharks and pirate sails. Poseidon hails me, and Blackbeard whales, and many other fairy tales. And she is always there for me, and she always cares for me, and she lights my way. I carry my axe through a forest of blue spruce yews. Like your eyes, the crash bears true, and I'm running from a forest fire, and Robin Hood and Arthur find a little girl with wondrous eyes, and she and I can fly, and she always there for me, and she always cares for me, and she lights my way. Night runs through, and I'm lost and wandering. The crash bears true, and I find my feet again, and Superman shakes my hand, and the Justice League and I, we take our stand, and she is always there for me, and she always cares for me, and she lights my way. Thank you. One more, I guess. I haven't done this one in a long time. It's called Deaf, Dumb, and Blind. It's a really cheery song. It's about growing old. I wrote it when I was like 35. All that's left is a rocky road, or so they tell me. The changes come so suddenly, makes me feel like I'm getting old. There's so much wrong in paradise. Sorry. A wincing pain, cold as ice. It hurts so bad, you gotta close your eyes. Oh yeah, yeah. And I'm blind. They say that I've got to slow down. They say that I've got to turn around. I say yes and I say no again. Walking dog and cane. There's so much wrong in paradise. The sound of her tears is never nice. And a broken man always cries. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I'm deaf and blind. They say that all of life is frail. What to do when your senses fail? Well, tell me who is it that carries you when you're lost? There's so much wrong in paradise. Keep your distance, take my advice. I've been there once or twice. I'm deaf, dumb, and blind. Deaf, dumb, and blind. Yeah, deaf, dumb, and blind. Whoa, yeah, 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 yeah. Deaf, dumb, and blind. You know, I do want to say this. I've been at fundraisers before, and this is something where you know the guy that's going down and you know what good they're doing. It's a good time.
Yeah. Okay. Now we have T.C. Eliot, the bald man. Yeah.
turn them both off, so which one you want?
Better tell me it wasn't.
No, it's fine.
There's no extra charge for the visual comedy. Lord. Oh.
Good thing we adjusted the other mic, right? Oh. All right, I'm TC. Whoever that one woo is, thank you. I appreciate that. Doc asked me to play. I don't normally play out, and this is a little nervous for me. But I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and play for such a great cause. He only had one instruction, and that was be humorous, be funny. Yeah, I don't write funny songs, so I don't know what I'm going to do. With the exception of one, there's one song, and I'll start with it. And I would like to say real quick, there are some CDs out in the lobby. There's a little tip jar there. It's a suggested donation of $10. A few of us have set CDs out there. If you would like to purchase one, just